Yannick Bisson is a Canadian actor born in Montreal in 1969. He started acting when he was a young teenager, and for the past 12 years he has been known to the audience as Detective William Murdoch from the hit TV show Murdoch Mysteries. The story takes place at the end of the 19th century in Toronto, and in every episode, Murdoch and his team have a case to crack. His right hand is Dr. Julia Ogden, with whom the audience expects any time for them to be a couple. However, their love story is not as easy, and they're constantly tested in their efforts to get to each other. Yannick has a lot of awards for his role as Detective Murdoch, and in his personal life, he is a proud father of 3 daughters with his wife Chantal. William Murdoch must be very special to you, because you've kind of been together for many years now.
My relationship with William Murdoch has been a very long one. Yes, we've been very close for 12 years now.
Well, that's a long time for a TV show, for a TV character.
That's right, longer than most marriages.
Yeah, that's true. How do you feel being him, and how did you initially become him?
Well, it was an audition process. I got to try out for the part, like I'm sure many people did. And it was funny because at first I wasn't sure that the show would last very long, or at least none of us were sure, because there were no other period drama on the landscape at the time. There was no one doing, certainly, you know, Victorian era and that sort of thing. So I was a little bit cautious. I didn't really know if it was going to be a big deal or not, or last a very long time. I'm certainly glad that it did. But we didn't know. It was also on a smaller network, just a few stations. So, you know, I did know that the quality of the writing and that the premise was solid. And so I was eager to try it, for sure. And I also thought, well, the show will never look dated. It will never look, you know, out of date, because it's already 100 years old, so we can just do it forever. And it looks like that's exactly what we're doing.
You have real historical people in it. You have the mysteries, the murder mysteries, which is, I'm sure, very fun. There is also a little bit of romance and a love story. So you have all of these elements in it. So which part is more fun for you?
You know, it's interesting. Everybody you speak to likes a different aspect of the show. And that's probably my favorite part, is that we do a little bit of everything. Even when I was beginning to direct on the show, we could do things differently. We could take chances. We could have fun over here because we do some comedy. We could have romance over here because there is a romantic aspect to the show. And then you have all of the crime, the procedural stuff, and the historical references, the historical figures. So we don't do any one thing all the time, and we also don't take ourselves too seriously. So I think that degree of lightness makes the show appealing to a lot of different people.
And how do you feel working with HELENA for so long as your screen partner? Because that's a lot of years to have the same partner.
Yeah, we've all been working together a long time. Just like any family, we have some good days, some bad days. Mostly good. Everyone comes prepared to play. Everyone works really hard on this show, and I couldn't have asked for a better partner in HELENA. She's always puts a lot of effort into the show. She does a spectacular job. And I think we've struck gold with this cast. We have a perfect balance all the way around, and it's been very good.
I thought I would see if you had time to step out for lunch.
I believe the geese are flying south for the winter.
What are you doing here, Emily? All right.
You okay?
Yeah.
Are you ready? You mentioned directing, and I know that you've directed a few episodes. I guess my question is it easier to direct something when you know the story so well, and I'm guessing you have your own input, how it can actually look like?
I think when you're really, really close to a project, like I have been to this one, directing on it just comes naturally. You know the feeling of the show, the essence of the show, and so that part is easier. The technical aspect of directing is not ever easy for anyone, but I think it helped a little bit, especially since I had to also act as well. So it does definitely make it easier to be so close to a project, but also it's a bonus because I get to give a little more creative input than I would on a normal day. And so that was real special for me.
Do you ever think of the day when you have to say goodbye to William Murdoch? And what kind of character would you imagine yourself doing next?
I've thought about the day that I would have to say goodbye to William Murdoch many times. Well, you know, in show business, you don't take anything for granted, really. You're always sort of waiting to get fired. That's what we do. And so when we, when it keeps going one more year, it's like, wow, okay. So, I didn't know that it would last this long. So I keep wondering each year, is this going to be the year? But it's not, so I'm very happy. So in a way, it might actually make it a lot harder when the end finally comes. But I have a feeling that the Murdoch concept and the Murdoch stories have many, many more years left in them. Whether it's continuing as a series or something else, I think there's a lot of value there. It's a very successful intellectual property. It's a very successful brand. And all of the people that started out with us, almost everyone is still with us. So I think it will always remain as good right to the end. So that's the important part.
Why did you become an actor?
I became an actor because I wanted to try everything. And the only way to do that is by acting like you're doing everything.
I mean, when in life were you going to be a detective in that period of time?
Yeah, there was no way I was going to be a fireman, Batman, a detective, a superhero, James Bond, all these different things. So this is the closest thing I could find.
So what would the next one be? Like, what can attract you to superhero?
I haven't done a whole lot of sci-fi, and I personally, as a viewer, love sci-fi. So I'd like to do some of that. I'd really like to do some of that, but I have plenty of time between seasons of Murdoch, so I do some things in between as well. But it'll be the right thing when it is. I'll let you know.
In terms of your look, how different do you look in real life compared to William Murdoch? Like, do you wear a suit and a tie, or you prefer to be totally different because you do that all the time?
Yeah, I don't wear a suit and tie very often. I don't shave very often either. So probably look pretty different. In fact, some days when I come on to set and I'm not dressed, some of the crew don't recognize me. And when you're out in public, sometimes people find out who you are and they pull you closer and they look at you. Out of context, out of costume, you're not the same person, I guess.
But I know that the show is incredibly popular, so I'm sure that when you go out in the streets, people recognize you very often. What is the strangest encounter you've had with a fan?
I had a very funny encounter just a few days ago. I got invited by a business associate to a dinner at his cottage. It turns out his cottage is very close to mine, a lake house. Just you can almost see each other across the lake. So he invited me, and he invited probably a dozen people. People that were friends that are on the lake as well, and other business associates of his, and they're all very nice people, and we were having a beautiful dinner, and sun's setting down, and we were having food outside on the table. And there was one couple in particular that didn't have a cottage on the lake, and Raja was saying to them, you really should come and check it out, and possibly have a lake house here as well. And this woman, tall, successful woman, says, this is really, really a great lake. Lots of people like to come here. We even have some celebrities on this lake. The guy from Murdoch Mysteries bought a cottage here too. And Raja says, that's him. And every head in the place went, she was mortified. She was completely mortified. It was very funny. So I told her, I said, well, guess what? I'm going to tell everybody you did that. Hey everybody, watch Murdoch Mysteries on Epic Drama.
Who's there?